Hello students, welcome to Vishnu IAS Academy. Today, as part of our SARVA SHRESTH program, I will be discussing about the topic of parliamentary privileges. And one more thing about SARVA SHRESTH program, it is a rapid revision program covering all the GS 4 papers of our UPSC MEIS 2024, and also it includes the major thing of value enrichment like data points, schemes, each and everything. So this will be a one-stop solution for your GS preparation. So let us go with this topic now. Parliamentary privileges. What is this? See, why we are discussing this topic now, because it is directly mentioned in our GS2 syllabus as union and state legislatures, structure, functioning, conduct of business, powers and privileges. See, for our mains preparation, each and every syllabus keyword and each and every PYQ theme will be very important. So in this context, it is imperative for us to cover this topic of parliamentary privileges. Okay, next. Since it is a syllabus keyword, we will be just looking into the PYQs which have been asked from this topic. A PYQ on parliamentary privilege have been asked in UPSC 2014, and it goes like: the powers, privileges and immunities of Parliament and its members, as envisaged in Article 105 of the Constitution, leave room for a large number of uncodified and unenumerated privileges to continue. Assess the reasons for the absence of legal codification of the parliamentary privileges and how can this problem be addressed. So this question basically goes into the deeper concept of parliamentary privileges, why, what is the position, why there is no codification and what must be done. So going from this theme, we will be discussing the topic in detail. And as I told you earlier, SARVA SHRESTH is a sort of value enrichment program where you will be getting ready-made introductions, conclusions and all. So and for parliamentary privileges topic, it should be the best introduction. We would be defining the parliamentary privileges. What is the introduction? Parliamentary privileges are set of rights, exemptions, immunities enjoyed by Parliament as an institution and MPs in their individual capacity. So basically parliamentary privileges are set of rights, exemptions and immunities. Next, sources. From where does this parliamentary privileges arrive? Means what is the basis for this parliamentary privileges? One major thing or one major drawback of this parliamentary privileges in India is that they are not codified. So we will be individual member of parliamentarians would be getting power of this parliamentary privileges from different sources. And the major source of that is itself our constitution. Our constitution, Article 105 and Article 194 mentions some of the privileges, powers, privileges, immunities. And other sources are conventions, judgements of Supreme Court and various rules of the House. These four things will be providing the basis for parliamentary privileges in our country. Next, to write a better answer, we need to know some sort of factual details with respect to parliamentary privileges also. So, now we will be discussing the privileges and immunities enjoyed by the MPs and MLAs. You need not know each and everything, but if they had asked some sort of mention about enumerate the privileges, then we have to at least know 4 to 5 points. In this context, I will be explaining this. First major parliamentary privilege is freedom of speech in the House, which means they cannot be prosecuted for saying or doing anything in the House. Means an individual MP or an MLA is having absolute right to say anything in the House. They cannot be sanctioned for the things they had told in the House. That is called as freedom of speech and expression in the House. Next, freedom from arrest for 40 days prior or after a session, which means, for example, a session is being running now, and an MP who is prosecuted under any sort of offence, he cannot be arrested either 40 days before the session or 40 days after the session. This is one of the privileges these MPs and MLAs are having. Next, the legislature has the power to regulate its internal affairs. Means it can make rules on its own. Okay, what are the various parliamentary privileges, or what are the things, what are the breach of privileges and how to punish, what is the procedure, everything will be decided by the legislature itself. Next, the members can be punished for the breach of privileges. See, if someone had breached the privilege, parliamentary privilege, the legislature, the House has the power to punish them. For example, Indira Gandhi, former Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi was punished for her actions in late 1970s. Next, then why? What is the need for this parliamentary privileges? The need for this parliamentary privilege was mentioned by Supreme Court in P.V. Narasimha Rao case. In this case, Supreme Court told that purpose of bestowing these privileges on legislators is to enable them to perform their legislative functions without fear or fervor. Means these with the help of these parliamentary privileges, MPs will be having some sort of power so that they can express their feelings fearlessly. That is the thing. Next, It also grants freedom of speech and expression to members of the House, because the major work of this MPs is to put forward the demands of their constituency. So if there are some sort of restrictions with respect to their freedom of speech, it will be problematic. So there won't be any restrictions with respect to their freedom of speech. Next, wider protection of immunity against civil and criminal proceedings. This is one of the need. And the last thing is, empowers the House to punish both insiders and outsiders. See, for example, if a media house or some other person had shown the wrong form of happenings in the House, in that scenario, House has the power to punish the wrongdoer. This is the basic need of this parliamentary privilege. Next, but what are the issues? What are the issues for this parliamentary privileges? The basic issue is that it is against the idea of constitutionalism. Why? Because the constitutionalism, in the sense, it says that constitution limits the powers of be it legislature, executive or judiciary. But what is happening here? Parliamentarians are having unlimited powers. They can decide what are the rules. They can give judgment about it is a privilege or not. It is also completely against the separation of powers. So this goes against the idea of constitutionalism. Next, the legislators have the power to be the sole judges to decide what their privileges are. So the same thing which I told you, that it is against the theory of separation of powers. Next, misused by various members. For example, in Rajya Sabha in 2018, many MPs have raised religious slogans, but they were not punished as they considered itself as part of parliamentary privilege, as they are having freedom of speech and expression. It is against the law. Next, artificial distinction between the freedoms of citizens and freedoms of representatives. See, there are some sort of reasonable restrictions on the freedom of speech and expression of each and every individual. But as per Article 105 and 194, these MPs and MLAs are not having those sort of restrictions. So this is creating some sort of privilege for them. There is an artificial separation between the MPs and normal citizens. This is also one of the issue of this parliamentary privilege. Next, abuse of authority by the House. For example, UP legislature or this Karnataka legislature had punished some sort of outside journalists for their writings with respect to the parliamentary proceedings. But the problem here is that these parliamentary privileges were not codified. So in this scenario, if they are having some sort of problem or some sort of anger towards any journalist, they can take action in the form of this breach of privilege. So it is also one of the issue. Next, defend unruly behavior in the House in the pretext of parliamentary privileges. For example, in Kerala Assembly, this MLAs had went over the benches. They had created a lot of vandalism, but they became safe in the sense that they are using their parliamentary privilege. Next, conflict of interest and violation of natural justice. Of course, there is some sort of immunity or privilege. It is against the principle of natural justice. So it is one of the issue. Next, so what is the way forward for this? The major way forward for this is codification of the parliamentary privileges. This codification of parliamentary privileges was first mooted by Supreme Court in MSM Sharma case, in the case of MSM Sharma. So what happens if these were codified? It sets the limits of use and utility, fair application of law, because they will be knowing what comes under privilege and what do not comes under privilege. So it will be easier for the giving of justice. Next, it upholds constitutionalism, and also in this case, Supreme Court told that to have a fair trial, there is need for formation of some independent tribunal. Next, the press has long been demanding a definition of this breach of privilege and parliamentary because they are the main targets, right? Next, finally, with the codification, what happens? There will be a balance of rights of representatives, freedom of citizens, and also eventually the constitutional morality, right? And finally, to conclude, we can say that India always believes in constitutional sovereignty. We do not believe in parliamentary sovereignty. So if we use this sort of thing in our conclusion, it will be having a lot of impact. So in the conclusion, we can use the words like India believes in constitutional sovereignty rather than parliamentary sovereignty. So in this scenario, codification of parliamentary privileges is quintessential and need of the hour. Okay. For value addition, I will be giving some sort of judgments and some sort of international practices with respect to parliamentary privileges. First thing is the P.V. Narasimha Rao case. In this case, what happened? Supreme Court told that it could not be prosecuted or for corruption if they followed through with voting or speaking in the House as agreed. So basically in this, what happened is that Supreme Court ruled that the lawmakers could not be punished if they are taking some sort of bribe to tell something. But the major why parliamentary privilege is in use, because in a recent case in 2024 itself called Sita Soren versus Union of India case. Supreme Court had struck this P.V. Narasimha Rao case and it has overturned the P.V. Narasimha Rao case in this Sita Soren judgment. In this, Supreme Court told that the parliamentarians do not enjoy parliamentary immunity for acts of bribery. Right? They do not. If a question comes on this parliamentary privileges, you have to surely mention this Sita Soren case. Okay. International practice. Australia is considered some sort of forward state with respect to this parliamentary privileges, because in Australia all the parliamentary privileges were codified itself in the constitution itself. Okay. So this practice must be brought to India. Next, even our Venkatachalaya Commission, National Commission to rework this constitution, formed in 2002, had recommended that the privileges should be defined and delimited. Okay. So students, in this format we will be covering all the syllabus themes and PYQ themes. We had calculated all the number of themes which we will be getting in this. It amounted to around 400 topics, 300 from static and around 100 topics from the current affairs. So in the same format which I had expressed in parliamentary privileges, we will be explaining all the 400 topics in our SARVA SHRESTH program, which is basically a rapid revision program and value enrichment program. And for every topic, we will be providing a one-pager notes for each and every topic. See, for example, in the parliamentary privileges, we will be mentioning the syllabus linkages and PYQ linkages, introduction, the sources, articles, the common content, various judgments, the possible way forwards, conclusion, and some other judgments or international practices which will be fetching some sort of extra marks in our answers. This is basically our program of SARVA SHRESTH, which will be helping you in the coming 3 months to make your life easier. Thank you.